Hello, everybody, and welcome to GoldSpring Reflections. Unfortunately, Will Tate can't join us today, but we are delighted to have on board Chris Pouney, our UK leader from sunny England. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
And we're also joined by Cindy Fisher, our GoldSpring partner. Hello, Cindy.
Hello, Neil. How are you?
So, Chris,
Hey,
since
Chris.
we have you here, we'd like to talk all about your experiences with the London Travel Show, and then we're going to get on to some hot topics that we've all seen in the news recently. So, Chris, the London Travel Show, and of course, we've had to delay this recording a little bit because combined with the London Travel Show, you've just recovered from COVID. So how was the COVID, first of all, and then we'll get back to the London Travel Show.
Yeah, COVID was not overly pleasant, if I'm honest. It was a week or so sitting on the sofa with the stuffing knocked out of me. So, but I'm pleased to say I'm back here. I've survived it. I'm alive and well and ready to go. But it certainly did knock it out of me for a week or so.
Well, we're very glad you're back too. London Travel Show. So something that GoldSpring has normally attended in the past. I wasn't able to make it this time round. New calendar placement and also a new location in London. I remember that old Olympia Centre, sometimes a little bit noisy. So can you give us some insight into what the new location, the Excel Centre, was like, and some of the logistics? How were the atmospherics there?
Yeah, it was certainly a very busy event, number one. The area, for those that know London, it's out in the east of London, near to London City Airport. So just a little bit further than Canary Wharf, which is kind of the newer financial heartland of London. And for those that may or may not know, we've actually just had a new train line open in London as well, originally called Crossrail. It's now called the New Elizabeth Line. And actually it makes it very, very easy to get across there. So state of the art train line that's basically been put in. I think it's taken about 12 years to build and massively over budget, massively delayed, all that normal stuff that often happens with massive civil engineering projects. But the net result is it makes for a very, very speedy journey straight into East London from the west. You can actually get all the way from Heathrow all the way over to East London very, very quickly indeed. So from a logistics perspective, very good. It's a nice newer venue, very similar venue, frankly. You could be in any of these venues probably anywhere across the world. The old kind of Earl's Court Olympia venue, very traditional, I think they're probably almost Victorian actually in their buildings. So a lot of tradition, a lot of history around them. Excel's almost a very nondescript building, clearly very purpose built, and it's a great location for exhibitions. So yeah, works very, very well.
Great. And of course, the UK's lifted most of, I think, all the quarantine restrictions, vaccination requirements, of course. So how was the attendance? Do you think that must have helped the attendance a bit?
Yeah, it did. I was actually there on the second day, not the first. I understand the first day was incredibly busy. The second day was a little bit quieter. I was conducting or involved in one of the masterclass sessions. So obviously that gave people a fantastic reason to come on the second day. I'm sure you agree, Neil. But yes, it was a great event. There's some really, really good stuff going on. And these events are always fantastic, aren't they? Just from a learning perspective, as well as just the opportunity to catch up with not even just suppliers that you do know, because I always think that, if you're a buyer, you've got those set of suppliers you work with, you should be catching up with those guys anyway regularly as part of your relationship management stuff. But it's about wandering around and looking at and meeting those folks that you don't know and having those kind of conversations with new suppliers, new technology players, etc. One of the things they did this year, interestingly, is they started charging for attendance. So unless you were an exhibitor, or unless you were a speaker or a buyer, you were essentially paying to attend. So you didn't have kind of lots of suppliers wandering around that weren't actually based on a stand effectively. So it'll be interesting to see if that had an impact to kind of numbers and things, and that might have been why it felt a tiny bit quieter perhaps on the second day rather than the first. But yeah, great event, always a good event.
Interesting, because it was a London Travel Show was I think an independent thing acquired by the BTN Group, or with the BTN Group about 2 years ago. Cindy, do you have any questions for Chris?
Yeah, I do. First off, I am really excited about the new train service out there. I remember making that trip from Heathrow to Canary Wharf. It was not pleasant. So that is absolutely great news, Chris. and a great area to hold the business travel show. I'm just really curious, and understand you attended the second day. What were the top two probably topics that you heard about throughout your attendance that you'd like to share with everyone?
Yeah, I think the first one, certainly from a buyer perspective, Cindy, was really around supplier performance. So one of the common themes that we're seeing amongst buyers is the ability for suppliers to deliver what it is they're contracted to deliver. So, the natural focus is on TMCs, and I had a number of conversations with folk who were getting very, very frustrated by their TMC performance. And so I think that was very much a common theme, and very much spinning onto that, and I'm sure we'll touch on it later on as well. Very much spinning onto that was around airlines and hotels, lack of staffing, lack of resources, and ultimately a lack of service. And of course, this is all going on in a time of rising prices, right? So we're sitting here in the UK, for example, with inflation hitting something like 11-12% right now. And therefore prices are going up and services are going down. So that's causing, huge frustration, I think, for travel buyers. So I think the most common theme I saw was very much around frustration, particularly with TMCs, but across the whole travel sector as a whole. Travel has started back up, but actually people aren't, the travel experience is not what it was pre-COVID. Let's put it like that.
So I'm kind of interested in hearing about what solutions some of the TMCs gave to the buyers during the conference.
Yeah, I mean, clearly automation plays a big part in that, Cindy. And whether it's chat boxes, chatbots, trying to kind of rehash and restart some SLAs and reposition some SLAs. So I'm hearing a lot of that going on. But ultimately it's around, trying to get travelers, from picking up the phone, right? So, but that's really, really difficult when we're seeing flight cancellations, we're seeing baggage delays, we're seeing, queues coming out the door of airports, and people naturally concerned. I think we've been hit particularly badly here in the UK. We've just had the schools have all broken up in the last week or so for holidays. And of course, what you've now got, in days of old pre-COVID, business travel and leisure travel, it almost never met, did it? It's certainly in many cases, I can think even airports, right? There was some airports that were naturally leisure airports and some airports were naturally business airports. So business and leisure travelers, never the twain shall meet. And actually what you're seeing now is, because of the pent up demand for leisure travel, we're seeing a lot more leisure travel happening. And leisure travel is kind of clogging up the system for those business travelers that are trying to get back out on trips. So that seems to be a really common theme, and certainly causing a lot of frustration from buyers.